There are a lot of reasons that I love Mario Kart. It's high energy, it rewards skill while still being casual friendly, it brings us the joy of the Mario world in a completely unique form, and I just got blue shelled on the third lap, so if you'll excuse me, my brainstem has other places to be. Needless to say, the series' items have been a point of contention and go-to for many of its detractors for most of its life, and hey, I get it. It can be frustrating to feel like you had victory stolen from you at the last second, but when you really think about it, even if you drove an uncompromised race, the middle of the pack can be a nightmare in these games, so chalking it all up to one unfair item is usually a little silly. They've always been a deceptively complex balancing act, and to me, they make the series what it is. I mean, come on, do you honestly expect a video game fan to race without wacky items? What? There is nothing quite like lining up a perfect green shell shot and watching it fly, or dropping a bomb in the perfect spot to decimate a whole group of racers, and when you break out the mushrooms to take a quick shortcut, or better yet, give the blue shell a solid up yours. Oh. These rainbow boxes are the best drug in history. But this whole thing gets me thinking. As much as taking full advantage of a mushroom or star feels better than sex, is anyone really ever excited to find themselves with a fake item box or a blooper? Considering every item in the series, which is the true worst? And on top of that, could I fix it? Well, I can't think of anyone better than a sweaty Kokoto playing kart addict to give it a shot, so let's do it. Oh, and also it's not gonna be the coin, because that's a boring as shit answer. It's literally supposed to be worse than a normal item so that everyone else can catch up, and yet everyone ignores that fact because it's not the second coming of Blue Shell. Ripping on it would be utterly pointless. You can leave my son alone now. So right off the bat, we gotta cut like 85% of items out of the running, because the vast majority they've ever created are legitimately excellent and couldn't possibly take the worst spot. And this shouldn't take long. I mean, it's not like they've made 49. Oh, Jesus Christ. Tor has already added 11? Alright. Lightning round, I guess. I've already told you how awesome green shells are. Even if there is a chance you could hit yourself with it, being a good defense in back and a sick-ass skill shot in the front is super good, which by default means that the triple green shells are also out of the running. And honestly, green is arguably the worst shell too, so there's no reasonable justification for red shells, triple red shells, Bowser shells, or Yoshi and Birdo eggs to make the cut either. Bananas aren't the flashiest item in the world, but they're a reliable defense tool and can seriously screw people up if enough of them gather in the right spot. And the same goes for the triple and giant varieties. I'm torn on the barrels because I honestly hate this item, but realistically, if you were better than me at dodging your own spam, you'd have a hell of an item on your hands. But bombs are pretty similar, just with a larger radius and a specific timing that makes them better in some scenarios, but worse in others. Regardless, it would be a little goofy to complain about getting 1, 2, a cannonful, or a massive one. Mushrooms are the Mario Kart items, and whether you're talking about mushrooms, triple mushrooms, golden mushrooms, mega mushrooms, or a mushroom cannon, they all just really kick ass. Chain Chomp and Bullet Bill are the quintessential catch-up items, absolute powerhouses, and even though Bill is a hell of a lot better thanks to its invincibility, the Chomp is still a beast. Feel free to talk about my son as much as you'd like. And speaking of invincibility, we need to get every single item that gives it to you out of there, because it's a crazy enough status to easily win you an entire race. Goodbye Boo, Goodbye Star, Hearts, Bubble, Lucky 7, and Crazy 8. There are definitely a lot more reasons these cluster don't deserve to be among the worst, but invincibility kind of makes most of those reasons moot. In Double Dash, we got the Fireballs, which are basically just 5 green shells that have to be fired at the same time, and in 7 we were given the Fire Flower, which is basically a whole pile of green shells that you can just throw wildly. Then Tor had to go and f things up by including the Fire Flower, but giving it a modified Fireball effect instead. That's okay, Nintendo, I don't have respect for humanity either. The Ice Flower and Capsule are basically the same item as the Fireballs, but the Ice Flower obviously freezes enemies instead of making them spin out, which again, makes it about on par with the power level of the original, just a bit situationally. Then we've got a bunch of random offensive items that all do things that are pretty universally good. The Boomerang Flower is basically just a green shell that can't hurt you and can be thrown multiple times. The Super Leaf gives you a tail to protect yourself from multiple items or smack other racers. The Piranha Plant lets you eat items like bananas off the track and again, chomp in enemies. And the Hammers are essentially just a red shell that trades a much shorter range for the ability to hit through items. The Coin Box would be an obvious contender for loser since it doesn't really do anything of substance, but considering they currently only appear appear in Tour, where the name of the game is performing actions like grabbing coins to keep up a combo and build a high score, they're kinda the best item in the entire game. The feather is another stinker I hear tossed around a lot, but they've specifically gone out of their way to only include it in races one time, in a game where the tracks were completely flat. It's still not amazing or anything, but in some spots it could almost be as good as a mushroom. The dash rings are completely and utterly outclassed by mushrooms, but I think they, by the narrowest margin of this entire list, squeak their way into good enough territory. And finally, our final cuts from this list, the Super Horn and the Super Bell. Being able to destroy that almighty blue shell feels oh so good, and horns are no slouch on lesser items either. Meanwhile, the bell rings 3 times, but only makes your fellow racer spin out instead of go into cardiac arrest, and pushes away items instead of destroying them. Doesn't make it any less godlike though. And then there were 6. Alright, this is much more manageable. Each of these items has something that is clearly wrong with them, whether that be their utility, their fun factor, or otherwise. They don't know how to love. 3 of them, I think, also have really easy solutions to make them more usable, so let's make them happen. Bad item number 1, Fake Item Box. The Fake Item Box is a good idea in concept, an evil siren drawing players in and deceiving them at the last second, but the problem comes in with its actual execution. In most of the games they've appeared in, it is pathetically easy to tell that they're fake, which kinda defeats the entire point. You've already got a bit of a problem on your hands when you consider that anyone who's at all familiar with a track is gonna know where the item boxes are and aren't supposed to be, and for that reason I think it's actually a good idea to just forget this item, but if they ever do come back, all I can really suggest is that you just make sure they look close to normal boxes, or maybe let them block items from behind so you aren't just essentially getting an inferior banana. Bad item number 2, the blue shell. There's actually not that much to say about this one, because we've kind of been over this already. The blue shell makes this list not for its ineffectiveness, but instead for its frustration among players, which I, at the end of the day, find to be a necessary part of the experience. I don't have a solution for you, because, in a sense, it's already perfect. Kosuke Yabuki, the director of Mario Kart 8, has actually gone on record saying that they've considered removing it because so many people think it's unfair, but if you're one of those people, then for your sake I hope you get used to it, because he basically echoes what I've said here. You know? Sometimes life isn't fair. Of course, they could also just, you know, put in the item switches that appear in their other 27 million copy selling games so that everyone could play exactly how they want. But this is modern day Nintendo. They'd kill fun itself to preserve fun. Bad item number 3, the blooper. Here it is, folks. As confirmed by Reggie himself, the blooper is the worst item in Mario Kart history to get hit by. Yeah, you're coming out of the wallet for that one. Look, the blooper is capable of having a slight effect if you happen to get inked in an awkward spot, but just like with the fake item box, track knowledge usually invalidates this one completely. I think what they should consider for the future is rather than just having it cover your screen for a limited time, it works more as a flashbang, giving you completely trashed vision for just a second, or something more like a wipe of ink that gradually travels down your screen. Then I'd say just power up its traction losing effects so that carts with good handling finally have a real benefit while they watch you slipping and sliding all over the place. This way, it could be devastating even for seasoned players on tracks with few walls. The brake button would be your new best friend. But with all of them out of the way, we can finally talk about the true worst Mario Kart item of all time. And of course, there is no item it could possibly be other than... Hey, Cloud Buddy, could you get out of the way real quick? Lightning! Okay, obviously I'm pulling a bit of a jape here. The Thundercloud, according to anyone who's played Mario Kart Wii, is the easy choice for a worst item, but we've run into the same problem as the last time my doctor diagnosed me with liver damage. I disagree. I 100% completely understand where everyone is coming from in this case. How could the only item that's default status hurts you not be the worst one? For those who have never played Wii, the Thundercloud is an item that, as soon as you get it, causes a cloud to appear above your head. While it's there, you're granted greatly increased speed and immunity to off-road like a star, but after a short time it'll crash lightning down on your head, spinning you out, taking your items, and shrinking you. The catch is that bumping into another racer will pass it to them, so the ideal use of the item is to utilize all of its bonus effects to the best of your ability, then pass it off right before it destroys you. That doesn't sound like a bad item on paper, just a risky one, but the problem comes in when you consider how many circumstances may arise where you just aren't really around anyone when you get it, or when you just aren't near any off-road that you can skip to catch up. It's the only item in console Mario Kart history that activates the second you get it, so you can't wait for the right moment. Getting shrunk down is big enough damage to completely undo any ground you made up from its bonuses, so there are a ton of races in which pulling a TC is a death sentence. Unfortunately for you, I'm a masochist. To be honest, I just think the idea of a spontaneous hot potato match breaking out in the middle of a race is too amazing and unique to call it the worst item. That being said, god damn I hate the f***ing lightning, and I mean just about everything about it. Yeah, this one's not here because it's too weak, it is here because it is way too punishing, shows up way too often, and to me is far more infuriating than blue shells, especially in the modern games. I'm sure you all know this one, but just in case, when a player activates the lightning, every other racer spins out, loses their items, and shrinks down, the amount of time they're small increasing the closer to first place they are. Interesting that the common worst item and my worst item both involve the shrinking. You'd almost think it was a shitty anti-fun mechanic or something. Here's the thing. I get this item, and it kinda has to exist. It can be super difficult to catch up on certain tracks, and in a rare CTR critique, allowing players to front-run uncontested in kart racers can sometimes get a little out of hand. I just think it shouldn't feel so bad to be hit by. And that obviously leads into your next question.
Yeah, you ever gotten laid?
Yes, I would like to talk about how to fix the items. Let's start with my bitch, the lightning. Compared to the other item fixes, this one is actually kinda tough, because as much as I am pitching these for the sake of fun, I don't want to steamroll over an item's feel just for the sake of it. Sure, you could just take away some of its effects, but if the lightning didn't shrink you or didn't take away your item, I don't think it would feel like the lightning anymore. Which is why my official solution is to retire this old bag and replace it with the one item you may have noticed I've been avoiding, the Pow Block. This is an item I feel comfortable reworking, and I think we could give it the effectiveness of lightning without the frustration pretty easily. The original version popped up on the screen of every racer in front of you, and after a short period of time would strike, spinning out anyone on the ground and taking their items. It's too bad Mario Kart Wii decided to let you avoid it by doing a single trick. That one single decision kind of ruined any effectiveness it ever had. So that's gone, but I also think we can do even better. How about it affects every other racer, with the severity increasing the better their position is. Someone in 12th would pretty much only lose their item, meanwhile first would be brought to a full stop like they were hit with a blue shell. Then you could just speed up the item's activation time so you only have a split second to use your stuff before it gets tossed, adding a little skill to it. This wouldn't only keep its effectiveness at helping the back of the pack catch up, but I think it would be way less frustrating. I do question the concept of the item not working on anyone who's in the air, but then again, that's a timing thing, which should maybe be the job of the user to figure out. Anything that makes it so you have to think about how to use your item is more than appreciated. Your favorite son is always the one you have to fix the most. And last, but certainly not least, how do we fix the Thundercloud? Believe it or not, I actually think this one's kind of easy. There are a ton of options. Option number 1, the item doesn't activate until you press the use button. That way you can ensure you're in an advantageous position first, or choose to let it burn a hole in your pocket until the race ends or it gets knocked out of you if you're in a bad spot. The whole instant use thing was one of the most baffling aspects of the TC, and I think removing it is a decent enough band-aid just on its own. Option number 2, the item now only fires off the lightning if it's in an angry state, activated by passing it to another racer. This way it almost becomes a game of not bumping people for its duration just in case it gets passed back to you when it's angry. Option number 3, each time the item is passed, it builds up 1 charge of electricity, only dropping the shock when it reaches 3 charges and otherwise lasting for 7 to 10 seconds, with each pass maybe adding 2 or 3 seconds to the timer. This is definitely my favorite choice, since it feels exactly on the money feel-wise, retains the chaos of repeated passing, and cuts back on the number of times it's gonna screw over its user. For my money, this is how you bring back the TC in a way that feels fun, fresh, and useful. But also, option number 4, a complete redesign. Yeah, I think number 3 is basically perfect, but where's the fun in ending off on a normal ass solution? So, without further ado, I present to you the new and improved Lightning Cloud. I mean, seriously, it shoots lightning, not thunder. Every other localization got the memo. This inaccurate trading card from 2008 got the memo, but that's Nintendo of America for you. They always get their ideas from Sun Tzu. First things first, the Lightning Cloud does not activate until you press the button, because why in the actual hell would one item be different from all the rest? Once you activate it, the Lightning Cloud will fly across the track like a blue shell does until it reaches the first opponent in front of you, and when it gets there, a string of electricity stretches back, connecting your cart to the cloud as long as it's in your line of sight. While the string is active, you receive the benefits of the cloud, but they risk all the punishment, making it super powerful. If that line of sight is broken, however, your electricity goes away until you can see them again, and it only strikes if the electricity is up when time runs out, otherwise it just goes away. Additionally, using a horn or bell now causes the cloud to dissipate, and using a mushroom allows you to leave it behind, where it floats idly on the track until its lightning strikes. You can also dissipate it with a well-timed swing of a Tanuki tail, and that'll be a memory worthy of your autobiography. I really like the idea of a Mario Kart item taking things like line of of sight into account, and I think the TC's effect is just about a perfect opportunity for that. The whole point of the item is to bump into someone to pass it off, but now since the person getting the speed is behind the one with the cloud and is required to see that cloud for benefits, they're inherently getting pulled straight into the danger zone. If it gets passed back to you, then it just behaves like a classic TC, so you could totally still get decimated by your own item, but a skilled player can make sure that doesn't happen. It also asks real decision making of the user to decide what a good and bad spot to activate it is. Ideally, you'd probably want a wide, flat part of track to prevent them from leaving your line of sight while still being able to stay away, or a wide turn with off-road on the inside like in a desert track, but how long is it really worth holding onto that item when you could potentially get another one if you risk using it now? And on the other end of the situation, if you're the one with the nightmare above your head, should you take the obvious faster path like usual? Should you try for something else that has a higher chance of keeping out of line of sight? Or should you just admit defeat and let them pass you, ensuring you at least avoid the shock? Those types of decisions are what make Mario Kart so fun moment to moment, and I'm pretty damn proud of coming up with an idea so capable of that feeling. We couldn't have done it without him. But yeah, the third option is probably still a better idea. As cool as it might be, the lightning cloud is maybe a little too complicated for Mario Kart. No matter how sweet I would find a weird situational item like that to be, the average player does not want to deal with that. There's a reason nobody's ever gotten a green shell and said, hold on, I better check the manual first. I do at least hope that future Mario Karts are willing to be more experimental with items, because there's a lot of untapped potential there. Whether my assessments of these items or my methods of fixing them are good or not, I just love Mario Kart, man. I will take any opportunity given to me to talk about it. And as much as I'd like to say that the lightning is the worst item in Mario Kart history, that honor should probably go to the Thundercloud. So next time you crack open an item box, be glad it's not that. I've been waiting this whole time to see what's inside this bad boy, so let's give it a whirl. Do I get any do-overs?